This is the Teacher Dashboard app, and the Teacher Dashboard app, it's a pretty neat thing where essentially what we're trying to do is make it easier for teachers to do grading for their students. And so what we've done is we've allowed the uploading of Blackboard grade data, which is a pretty standardized format where columns are different assignments and rows are the different students. And once you upload the data, you can then configure a bunch of parameters and either automatically or manually grade your students. So how does it work? We have a sample data, so we don't need to upload anything. What happens is as soon as we upload sample data, these boxes appear, and all we have to do is specify for each name what type is it. So HW1 is homework 1, lab 1 is a lab, project 1 is a project, quiz, test, and test. We do that just in case you need to define that certain things, depending on the names of the columns, it might not be as obvious as test 1, and so you might need to kind of manually specify this. Then we just have some grading configuration, and we'll come back to some of these options in a little bit, but for now we'll leave it. So first we select a grading scale. In this case, we'll just do A through F, no plus minus, but we can do with plus minus, or we could just do pass fail. We can do automatic or manual grading. Automatic, we just specify a minimum passing score. Manual, we actually specify the cutoffs in percentages for each of the grades depending on the scale that we've selected. I'll leave it on automatic for now. And then finally, for each of the categories, homework, lab, quiz, project, and test, we have to specify a percentage that they're worth for your final grade. Lastly, we can actually also specify the points possible for each of the different assignments. Otherwise, the app automatically assumes the highest score in the data set is the maximum number of points possible. Now that we've configured this, and like I said, we'll come back, we can click the class tab. It takes a little while to produce some plots, but what it'll do is it generates first a grade distribution for the final grades for each student in the class. This is sample data. These names have been scrambled, but it is real grading data. So it gives you an idea of how this works. We then use like a distance calculation to do an ordered dot plot of the different students. And actually in red, it's highlighted the students that failed the class, which in this case was just one student, this Adam person here. Then we have a distribution of the final score, so you can see kind of the spread of the different scores. And we allow the plotting of different scores in the class against one another. So I could plot the test versus the lab, test 1 versus test 2, and you can see sort of the correlation and the trend in those scores. Underneath it, we have the raw data, so the raw scores and the final letter grade. And this again was computed manually. So remember, if I come back here, it was automatic. I could switch it to manual and then come back to the class tab and it'll actually update and change the grade distribution a little. Now with manual cutoffs, things are a little bit different. And I can also switch maybe back to automatic and do US plus minus, come back to the class tab. Once it refreshes, we now have grades that range from A to F with minuses and pluses, and the final corresponding letter grades down in the table here. On the individual tab, it's kind of a neat little visualization. For each student, we draw a little face, and the face then corresponds to the different components of the class and how well they did. So students that did well on tests have a bigger head size. Students that did well on projects have a bigger mouth. This person has kind of small in everything because they were the ones that failed the class. If I switch it to another student, this person did better, and the corresponding components of their grade are represented in this face. It's silly, but it makes for an kind of cute visualization of the different components of the class and how well the student did. And underneath the face is just some tables showing you the actual scores on each of those components to assess whether or not the different components make sense. And that's our Teacher Dashboard app. It's an app we hope can showcase the true power of Shiny, what it's capable of, and some of the cool things that you can do with it.